Hello, everyone. We are so happy to have you here with us on the Stronger Marriage webinar produced by the Utah Marriage Commission, hosted by Utah State University. I am Nia Phelps, and we are so excited to have you join us today. In today's webinar, we are so excited to be joined by Heather Holmgren. Heather is an in-house relationship and marriage counseling expert at Simple Modern, specializing supporting couples across all economic, racial, sexual orientation, and cultural sectors. She understands that marital conflicts fall into two categories: resolvable or perpetual. With deep insight into various relationship dynamics, including gay, poly, and trans couples, Heather helps individuals and relationships not only survive but rediscover happiness. Originally from northern Utah, Heather's country upbringing gave her a unique perspective on majority culture and religion. Now living in Salt Lake City, she enjoys living in a charming 1890s Victorian home with her partner, kids, and pets. Heather's personal journey of trial and perseverance has equipped her to guide her clients towards revitalizing their connections and achieving their best lives. In this webinar, we're doing a deep dive into how to listen and to understand, emotionally regulate, and co-regulate more effectively and show up in conflict, misunderstanding, gridlock better. If you have any questions, please ask them by entering your questions through the Q&A function. The chat will be turned off, so this is the best place to ask your questions. We will have a 15-minute Q&A at the end of the presentation, so write down all your questions and save them for the end. If you have joined us for the CEU credit, make sure to stay on until the end of the presentation. The survey needed for your credit will automatically load onto the screen, and then you will receive an email from the Utah Marriage Commission with your certificate. You may also email the Utah Marriage Commission to receive your survey on this webinar. Once the survey is completed, you will attain an email with your CEU credit certification. We will now turn the time over to Heather for her presentation.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to share my screen, and just so you know, we're having some issues with sharing my face. So you're welcome. I'm sorry. Hopefully we can get video going for me. And if not, I hope that I am able to offer a dynamic enough presentation that it can keep you engaged and interested in, and a little sneak peek. If you don't get to see my face today, at the end of the presentation, I did record a little video with my partner. So yeah, again, you're welcome. I'm sorry. So like Nia mentioned, I'm with Simple Modern Therapy. And as hopefully you all know, we are talking about the lost art of listening today. And before we get started, I just have a few humble requests. The first thing is to engage with a beginner's mind. And this is using curiosity and inner inquiry, approaching old information, things that you feel like you may already know, or the urge to say, like, I've got this, with an attitude instead of openness and not knowing. So I would love for you to move forward like an anthropologist seeking to understand more. This next block says a growth mindset. Believing that skills can be learned leads us to do new things. So focusing on yourself and what you'd like to get out of this and how you'd like to learn, and allowing your partner to do their own work. We want to recognize that we're all continuously evolving, and there's going to be information for you here, and your partner can take care of themselves. And this third one, be in it to win it. No one gets into a relationship to find someone they can harbor resentments toward until they die or divorce. I want you to remember and remind yourself why you've invested your lifetime to your partner and what work you're willing to do. So let's get going. I want you to consider, what does an ideal relationship look like? Is it two partners that are maybe avoidant? We agree to disagree. I don't know how, or I know how you feel. You know how I feel. We're done. Or is it partners who are validating? These are the collaborators and compromisers. We are willing to talk about our feelings a bit, but then we're going to move into problem solving. Or maybe couples who are more volatile. These are the eruptors. These are folks that burn hotter. They express emotions intensely, passionately, and sometimes loudly. Or is a mixed style more ideal? One person is maybe more avoidant and the other person is more validating. Think about your relationship and what category it might fit into. So, research shows that any relationship communication style can be successful. All of these folks could have very happy marriages provided that both people in the relationship have the same style of engagement. It's when you have a mixed communication or conflict style that there's more trouble. So, I mean, if we think about how many couples that includes, maybe that's us. So what now? When we're dealing with a mismatch in style, we increase opportunities for misunderstanding, misinterpretation, and hurt. So this increases the importance of excellent relational listening. When it comes to conflict, we want to reduce the frequency and duration of conflict and improve intimacy and connection. So this is our little table of contents to orient you to where we're going today. The first thing we want to talk about is, why are we talking about listening? What is up with this? Why is this so important? And then I want to go backwards before we move forwards and talk about a couple of things that are foundational to help us really engage in successful relational listening. And that's practicing good mental hygiene and being able to effectively emotionally regulate. And then we're going to move on to breaking down the skills of relational listening, what that really looks like. And then this practice what you preach component. I'm going to show a couple of videos. Hopefully they'll work. And you can see and think about and digest what we've talked about with those skills and consider the best ways to engage with certain conflict. So why listening matters. I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't attend today because they already decided that they're great at listening. And if we're to look at listening in its most simplistic terms, anyone who is able hearing can listen. Anyone who is able hearing has the capacity to be great at making meaning out of sound. But research shows us that although 60% of our time in conversation is spent listening, 60%, that's a lot of time spent listening, we only retain 25% of what is said. And this research only pertains to the regurgitation of listening and interpretation or meaning making, not the true art of relational listening. And that requires a much more skilled and nuanced ability. So lots of information lost, and we're going to assume even more information lost in that inability to be nuanced and to really interpret. So relational listening is attuning to the deeper meaning and emotion being expressed by someone who is deeply important and loved by the listener. Your partner's feelings are not your responsibility, but understanding, listening non-defensively, and showing empathy are. Research has shown that everywhere on the planet, people automatically evaluate every human transaction either as a positive or negative. This rating dial makes many things clear. If one person feels good about an interaction when the other person feels bad, that's a win-lose dynamic. No one wins in that situation. But the people who are synchronous in the way they perceive the interaction are very cooperative. They care about each other's values. So if we're synchronous, that means that how you feel about the interaction matters a lot to me and determines how I feel about the interaction. Knowing this becomes vitally important in understanding the value of seeing your partner in a positive light, giving them the benefit of the doubt, and assuming that whatever they're trying to communicate is important to understand. According to the research, it is the measure of trust, the degree to which you believe your partner has your interests in mind and can listen to you non-defensively, even if you can't stand each other in the moment. It is the single most important factor that takes a relationship beyond that fabled 7-year breakup point. So those who master relationships seem to hew the motto, when you're in pain, the world stops and I listen. So to further our understanding of the importance of listening when it comes to relationship satisfaction, I want to split hairs a little bit. I want to talk about what relational listening is more characteristic of versus stonewalling or withholding listener responses. So relational listening is more characteristic of happily married than unhappily married couples. So people who are happily married more characteristically relationally listen well. And stonewalling or withholding listener responses is associated with decreased marital satisfaction and an increased likelihood of the relationship ending over time. So great. But again, what now? So now that we've begun to make a case for relational listening, let's discuss how we make it possible. Like any good athlete would attest, proper training and preparation are essential. Creating the proper atmosphere for relational listening requires training and preparation as well as consistent practice. So let's start with good mental hygiene. Just like going to the gym is about building up our strength, mental hygiene is about building up a mental muscle. It's an important way to maintain good mental health and build the resilience we need to face relationship challenges in the future. Daily habits to support your mental health and wellness can take as little as 10 minutes per day. And when I say good mental hygiene, I want you to think of it like good physical hygiene. Like I'm brushing my teeth every day. I may be taking a shower regularly. I may be noticing how much sleep I'm getting. Mental hygiene is about having daily healthy mental habits so that we can be more regulated. So my personal favorite way to practice good mental hygiene while also engaging in a practice that will directly improve my relationship is to check in regularly about how I'm feeling. Improving my emotional vocabulary allows me to be clear and specific about where I am emotionally at any moment of the day. So I've put a QR code on here. It will take you to a screen which allows you to download an app called the Wheels of Feels. Some of you may be aware of this app. I think it's really great and fun. I know a lot of therapists that carry around feelings wheels or have them in their offices, and this is just something you can have in your phone. It allows you to click on the inner areas of the circle. Here's a feelings wheel on my slide. As a place to begin about how you're feeling, and then allows you to go deeper and deeper and then will prompt you to maybe write a little bit about how you're feeling or what is going on in your day, that is reinforcing that emotion. Healthy emotional expression and emotional identification with our partners greatly improves effective communication and listening capacity. So if we know how we're feeling, and we're able to also identify feeling or emotional states from our partner, we're also going to be able to improve our communication and listening capacity. It also helps us understand our own emotional bandwidth, how much we actually have to give or how prepared we are to enter in any kind of conversation or dynamic. And that can be critical for difficult conversations. So now that we're deep in our feelings, that practice of recognizing, naming, and locating emotions and sensations in our bodies helps us with this next step, being able to emotionally regulate, especially in the midst of relationship conflict or eruption. Research has revealed that during conflict, the more emotionally dysregulated couples were, the more their marriages deteriorated in happiness over a 3-year period. even when controlling for the initial level of marital satisfaction. I want to restate that. The more emotionally dysregulated couples were, the more their marriages deteriorated in happiness over a 3-year period. So it is vital that we can effectively identify our emotions and emotionally regulate. So to understand how to emotionally regulate, we have to understand what it means when we're not regulated. In its most simple terms, emotional flooding is the experience of being overwhelmed when strong emotions take over, producing an influx of physiological sensations and increase of the stress hormones adrenaline and cortisol, often resulting in difficulty accessing our own resources for calming down. So when we get flooded, emotions can overtake our present moment experience, and this can trigger a fight, flight, or freeze response in our brain and in our body. There is a reciprocal relationship between the emotional brain and our executive functioning or executive brain. Our emotional brain is located in the center part of our brain. And you can see in this diagram, it's the center part. I hope you can see my cursor. It's where the pointer says amygdala. And when it gets triggered, it sets off an emotional alarm. And it literally shuts down our prefrontal cortex, which is the most evolved part of our brain. It's the thing that makes us human. It's the thing that, we have a thought come into our mind and we say, oh gosh, don't say that. Or, ooh, don't do that. That would be the wrong move. Or maybe you need to take a break. It's the most evolved part of our brain where our tools of logic, reason, and rationality reside. And here are some of the physiological sensations you might experience with emotional flooding. Increase in heart rate, short or shallow breaths, a pit in the stomach, feelings of anxiety, constriction in the throat, tightness in the chest, sweating, or difficulty in thinking clearly. Those are all highly uncomfortable feelings, but they're not at all outside the norm when we're flooding. So everyone might have different triggers for emotional flooding, but here's what's common. At the most basic level, we become emotionally flooded when we sense that something is threatening, period. Our bodies and brains can recognize threat from something out in the world, an interaction with someone we love, or even a feeling we have inside. A simple thought, an assumption, a memory, a heated conversation, and emotional sensitivity, they can all produce the same physiological response as an actual threat. So when you experience flooding, it could be because there was an actual trigger that reactivated an old threat or an overwhelming emotion that feels really heavy to hold, and your brain is going to go into protection mode. So for example, if a hurtful thing your partner says to you, or a name that they call you, or a threat to leave you reminds you of something in your past, this could lead to emotional flooding. It could lead to emotional flooding anyway, right? Your partner may not even realize that what they said was so triggering. So there's sometimes when our partner might say something to us that feels very neutral to them, but for us, it reminds us of something, and then we're upset, we're flooded. So part of effective emotional regulation is understanding the situational stressors that could be impacting our ability to stay in a regulated space. So these are things that come from the outside, right? Or things that we may be just experiencing normally. There are a lot of stressors that can impact our ability to effectively emotionally regulate. This is a big reason why the practice of good mental hygiene is so important. It helps prime us to experience the blow of stressors in a more resourced way. That being said, we can't fully control the impact of stressors on our body, mind, and life. This slide shows a few examples of situational stressors that could affect our ability to properly emotionally regulate. You'll notice I use the word situational stressors, but you can imagine that chronic stressors have an even more amplified impact because we have less and less bandwidth over time. It really ends up taking a toll. So what I would suggest to you as you move forward in the practice of good mental hygiene and emotional regulation is just to notice what stressors are present for you and how they may be impacting your mood. Understanding this helps us recognize what's contributing to our reactions or conflict that may exist outside of the relationship exchange. So first and foremost, this is not an exhaustive list. It's just a starting point to think of ways that you can improve this skill. As I name a variety of techniques, I want to challenge you to practice them in real time. I'm going to give you a little bit of space and time. I was hoping, I don't think my video still is working still. Oh, yay, I did it. Hi, everybody. Oh, they must have done something that allowed me to, now I'm noticing my hair, how to be on camera. Yay, hi. So we're able to do this together. Breathing deeply activates the rest and digest part of our brain. So I want to go back because now I'm all like flustered. Breathing deeply activates the rest and digest part of our brain. And this is the opposite of that fight, flight, or freeze. This is where our brain receives the message that there is no threat, and our heart rate slows, our breathing becomes deeper, blood flows back into our internal organs, and we can feel a sense of calm. So one particular breathing technique is to inhale 4 counts in, hold for 4 counts, and exhale 4 counts out, while making sure that your belly fills up with air like a balloon. So let's do this together. I'll begin to count, and then I'll just do it with my finger since you can see me. So start breathing in, 1, hold, breathe out. Again, breathe in, hold, and out. Oh, that helped me a lot. When you take a deep breath, it activates the vagus nerve in your spine, which travels all the way up your brainstem and literally presses down on the rest and digest part of your brain. Good vagal tone is paramount in managing emotional regulation and dysregulation. So I'm not going to go any deeper into polyvagal theory or how you develop good vagal tone, but I really encourage you to look on the internet if you're interested. This is a good mental health hygiene practice, is engaging in exercises that can promote vagal toning. And there are things that are really simple, like this deep breathing. So yeah, after this, you may want to go on the internet and look more into that. So the next one is noticing your body. Pay attention to your body and think about what parts tense up when you're in the midst of hostility, and direct your focus to those parts. So let's do that. I'm going to close my eyes and think about it. All right, I'm in a fight with my partner, and I can feel my heart speeding faster, and my stomach is getting tighter, and my throat is constricting a little bit. And so as I'm noticing that, I'm just going to focus on relaxing those parts of my body. It helps me to like kind of move a little bit and to breathe into it. And even I'm going to take a sip of water. That will help my throat. If you wanted to engage in a practice like this, when you're already emotionally regulated, when you're dysregulated, you're more likely to just automatically tighten and then relax. So it's a great practice to do beforehand. And also it will help you notice as well when you're in those conflict moments. So the next one is naming the emotions. So we're going to cue the wheel of feels, right? And we want to also be able to name accompanying sensations that come with those emotions. For example, wow, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. So overwhelmed is the emotion. I can feel my heart racing and my blood boiling. The blood boiling and heart racing is the accompanying sensations. We know that studies show naming what you are experiencing calms down the amygdala, while also creating some space between you and the emotion. And in that space, you can better observe it without it defining you or becoming blended with you. And also being able to give us a moment to decide what we want to do about it. So naming an emotion as we're experiencing it is actually really helpful. Once you're able to notice when you're beginning to emotionally flood, you can also experiment with ways of shifting out of it. So you might already do some things that work for you. You could ask yourself, what do I do usually when I'm feeling overwhelmed? Maybe I do something to distract myself, like I watch on a show, or I put on a show, excuse me, or I put together a grocery list, or I move to a different environment. I go on a walk. Maybe I do something like wrap a blanket around myself, or I talk to a friend. You can already start with doing what you already know, but be experimental in that space. Try new things, see if it can help you get to a more regulated space. So moving right along, we've gone over good mental hygiene, emotional regulation, and now we're moving to relational listening. Now we've begun to make the case and the preparation necessary to optimize our ability to effectively attune to our partner. Let's discuss how we're going to make this possible. So we're beginning to see the kind of mindset and setting that are required to optimize relational listening as we're engaging with healthy mental hygiene practices and are becoming more adept at recognizing and regulating our emotional state. I want to remind you, relational listening is attuning to the deeper meaning and emotion being expressed by someone who is deeply important and loved by us, the listener. So I want to now go into the rules of engagement for relational listening. First, we're going to assume that our partner has approached us with a concern, right? Now we're moving into needing to be in that listening role. I want to do a deeper dive into each of these skills. So the first one, attuning. Listening functions as a processing and meaning-making tool for the speaker. So the speaker is the one, our partner, that's come to us with a problem, right? And as we are listening to them, part of our purpose is to be a processing and meaning-making tool for them so that they can digest what they're thinking, what they're trying to say, and what they need. So these features are critical. Positive engagement responses that include positive facial expressions. Okay, I'm interested in what you're saying. I don't have a mean look on my face, or, maybe I'm looking more neutrally. I'm trying to listen. Back channel vocalizations. These are things like saying, okay, nodding, leaning forward. The presence of attentional cues. So attentional cues are I'm paying attention, right? I'm making eye contact with you. I'm nodding at appropriate times. Just an FYI, in contrast, research has shown that lower rates of attentional cues and the presence of negative emotional expressions are associated with increased negative emotion and engagement during the conflict and with lower relationship satisfaction. Speakers react to listeners' behaviors. So it's not just about, the speaker supposed to the speaker needing to approach us in this most perfect way. The way that we engage through listening really matters. And for example, according to research, a speaker who receives too few listening responses are more likely to escalate in negativity. So doing this emotionally positive listening is really important. So when your partner brings an issue to you, your first job is to fully understand what their complaint or need is. Tune into their world. Hear your partner's pain, even if you don't agree with the details. So here's an example. Your partner comes to you and says, I'm really upset about last night. I had cooked dinner and was waiting for you to come home. You're always home by 6, but I get a call at 5:45 saying that you're going to work late. That's really unfair to me. So if we're responding with hearing the pain, we want to name the feelings of being upset and it feeling unfair. So you might say, I hear that you're upset with me and that my actions didn't feel fair to you. So the next step is summarizing. Remember that you might not agree with the complaint or the need, but understanding it better can help the issue resolve quickly and not escalate unnecessarily. We want to make sure we summarize or reflect back what we hear our partner say. Don't get fancy. I've seen time and time again that partners try to finesse these concerns that have been stated by really restating in their own words what they heard their partner say. And people typically end up feeling less understood. Use your partner's words. Go for clarification. I promise you're going to have more success that way. So we're back to our example. If you remember, this is what your partner said. You cooked dinner for me, or, oh, no. Oh, sorry. We have our example before about, I'm really upset about last night. I cooked dinner for you and was waiting for you to come home. You're usually home by 6. So our summarizing example is, sorry, I'm just wanting to make sure I get this right. You cooked dinner for me and was expecting me home by 6 because I'm almost always home at that time unless I call. So although I did call you, it was too late. So this looks like in these 2 steps to summarize. The attunement is, I hear that you're upset with me and that my actions didn't feel fair to you. You cooked dinner for me and was expecting me home by 6 because I'm always home at that time. I'm almost always home at that time unless I call. So although I didn't call you, it was too late. So this next step is in the listening process. I want to ask questions and remain open to my partner's perspective. Some mistakes to avoid are defending, explaining, or rebutting. Don't pile in other instances or issues. This is usually where we see people saying, oh, really? Well, you did this thing the other day and I never said a word about it. Or I can't believe you're being so hypocritical. This happens to me all the time when da, 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 da. Please don't do this. Focus on this situation only, even if there's a pattern that repeats itself. We are just going for clarification from our partner. So if we go back to our example, responding is, I hear that you're upset with me and that my actions didn't feel fair to you. The summary, you cooked dinner for me and it was expecting me home by 6 because I'm almost always home at that time unless I call. So although I did call you, it was too late. The clarification. So this is this next step. I'm hearing it wasn't the fact that I wasn't home, but that I didn't call you until the last minute. Is that right? Do you feel like I'm getting it? Is there anything else that you think I need to understand about this? So please know that sometimes when we go for clarification, we ask questions, our partners will say, well, yeah, I think that you get some of it, but, and I maybe will continue on, or they might say, no, that's not it at all, and describe again. So we need to go through this process again and again of summarizing until we get that confirmation from our partner of, yes, I do feel like you do understand. Now, this next step, this last step, is offering validation. We don't have to agree. Again, this just means that you can empathize with any part of your partner's experience. So instead of me saying like, well, I would never do that, or I wouldn't feel that way, or this doesn't make any sense to me because me, I would instead try to think or ask myself, knowing my partner and what is important to them, can I understand where they might be coming from? So I'm going to repeat that. Knowing my partner and what is important to them, can I understand where they might be coming from? So I'm going to go through this process again, and we're going to get to that validation piece. So attuning. I hear that you're upset with me and my actions didn't feel fair to you. You cooked dinner for me and was expecting me home by 6 because I'm almost always home at that time, unless I call. So although I did call you, it was too late. I'm hearing it wasn't the fact that I wasn't home, but that I didn't call you until the last minute. Is that right? Do you feel like I'm getting it? Is there anything else you think I need to understand about this? I know you work hard to make nice meals for us, and that spending time in the evening together is important to you. When I didn't call you to let you know I was running late, it was like I was disregarding those things. It makes sense to me that why you would feel so upset. It wasn't fair to you. I'm going to be more thoughtful about the time and think about how I can make sure I let you know well in advance if I'm running late. I'm sorry. So what are we really fighting about? We want to understand that most of the time we're fighting about nothing. Our fights are not that often about money or sex or the in-laws, none of that stuff. The vast majority of conflicts are about the way we fight. So when we're fighting about where the car keys are, who can drop the kids off at school, coming home late, etc., the keys, the schedule, the tardiness are pretty insignificant. Or in other words, nothing. But when we look a little deeper, the nothing we are fighting about is usually rooted in one of three things: our values, unrecognized needs, and hidden dreams. When we can understand this, we are able to be more open and curious about the deeper meaning of what our partner is communicating about. And this is the true gift of relational listening. It's really understanding, okay, we're talking about this, but what is it really about? So if you recall in the example I named, I know you work hard to make nice meals for us, and that spending time together in the evening is important to you. When I didn't call you to let you know I was running late, it was like I was disregarding those things. I assume that part of the issue is that my partner needs to feel regarded, important, valued in the relationship, and does not feel that way in this scenario. Also, there's something about spending time together and sharing a meal that's important to my partner as well. And I want to reflect that back to them. That's where we are able to evoke that deeper connection, make the repair that's necessary, which we all know is really highly correlated with relationship longevity and satisfaction. So now, obviously, we can become dysregulated in this process. And if you do become dysregulated or flooded in a conversation with your partner in that listening role or in the speaker role, tell your partner. You can look like a lot of different things. I'm starting to get upset. I feel like I'm not thinking clearly anymore. I'm worried that we're going in circles. I don't feel, like I can think clearly. Take at least 20 minutes. We know research shows it takes about 20 minutes to become re-regulated if we're working really hard at it. And it can take longer, but don't take any longer than 24 hours. We don't need that long. Get out of visual range. Do not be within the eyesight of your partner. Do not be in the same room. Do not be in a room where you can see them. Get them out of your sight, because as you may have had the experience, sometimes when we're dysregulated and it involves our partner, just seeing them is a trigger to re-engage in whatever the flooding sensations, thoughts, feelings are. Do something soothing to take your mind off. So like we had said before about the example of being overwhelmed, it may be writing a grocery list, getting into a different environment, taking a walk outside, watching a show, doing something that can focus your mind elsewhere. And you may find yourself getting on that path again of being dysregulated. You may have to actively bring your mind back. It's really about being in the practice of focusing, refocusing on something more neutral. And lastly, come back when you've agreed to. If you do not come back when you've agreed to, then this turns into a form of stonewalling, which we know is really bad for relationships. So come back when you've agreed to. Even if you're still not feeling great, re-engage and say, hey, I know I said I'd be back in 20 minutes. I'm still struggling. We can try to have this conversation again, but I just want you to know where I'm at. Or, you know what? I know it's been 20 minutes, but I think I need more time. I'm not doing well. If we notice that our partner is becoming dysregulated, engaging in attuning behaviors can be helpful. Reaching out and putting your hand on their hand, leaning toward them, saying, hey, I really want to get through this with you. Or it seems like you're getting upset. It's okay. We're okay. What do you need right now? This is an example of co-regulation. Anything that can help your partner get calm again and lets them know that you mean no harm can be really helpful. Sometimes I like to tell my partner, hey, I just want to have a conversation with you. I don't want to have a conflict, as a white flag of like, we can get through this. It's okay. Let's take a breath. All right. So now we're ready to practice the skills that we've learned today. I'm going to show you a short video clip. It might help to have a piece of paper handy if you want to make notes, but if not, I want to encourage you to listen intently and ask yourself this question. What ways does the male character miss key information and opportunities? In this scenario, the woman is approaching her partner with a request. I want you to think about what the listener, again, that the male character in this case, misses regarding what his partner is trying to communicate. I also want you to think about the relational listening skills we just discussed. And if you were to apply them at any point in this scenario, what would you say? And how would you hope to react? Okay, here we go.
I'm gonna go do the dishes.
Cool.
It'd be nice if you helped me.
No problem. You get them a little bit later. I'm just gonna put the streets here for a little
Gary,
bit.
come on, I don't wanna do them later. Let's just do them now. Take 15 minutes.
Oh, I am so exhausted. I just honestly want to relax for a little bit. If I could just sit here, let my food digest, and just try to enjoy the quiet for a little bit. Get some, get some, get some. That's what happens. And we will, we'll be cleaning the dishes tomorrow.
You know, I don't like waking up to a dirty kitchen.
Who cares?
I care, all right? I care. I busted my ass all day cleaning this house and then cooking that meal, and I worked today. It would be nice if you said thank you and helped me with the dishes.
Fine. I'll help you do the dishes.
Oh, come on. You know what? No, that's not what I want.
You just said that you want me to help you do the
I
dishes.
want you to want to do the dishes.
Why would I want to do dishes? Why?
See, that's my whole point.
Okay. So if anyone has seen this movie, we all know that things only get worse from here and eventually lead to a breakup. And you can also see like the fight about nothing, right? As you consider how you would have a different conversation, I would love to propose a do-over. Earlier today, I filmed a short video demonstrating these skills. Listen closely. Skill number 2 isn't going to show up on the screen because we want to be doing that throughout the conversation. Okay, here we go.
Be nice if you helped me.
No problem. I'll get to it a little bit later.
I don't want to do it later. It's only gonna take like 15 minutes.
Honey, I'm so exhausted. We can do it tomorrow.
You know, I don't like waking up to a dirty kitchen.
It sounds like you're frustrated.
I busted my butt cleaning the house. I made dinner for us. It would be nice if you helped me do the dishes.
You did work really hard today to make sure the house was nice and to cook. You want to do the dishes tonight and you want my help. And you don't want to wait.
I want you to want to do the dishes.
What do you mean by that?
I want you to want to help me. I worked really hard today and I want you to notice that, and I want you to help make things easier on me.
Okay. I think I'm getting it. I know you're tired too, maybe even more than me. You worked really hard today and You did so much to make the day really nice for both of us. When I dismissed doing the dishes just now, it felt like I wasn't being a good team player. Like I wasn't showing up for you and going out of my way to make your night and tomorrow better and a little bit easier. I can see how it would feel like I wasn't doing what you've been trying to do for me. I'm sorry. Of course, I'll help with the dishes.
So obviously, this is a very fabricated scenario, and oftentimes conflicts like this can last a little bit longer. But I hope that you get a sense of how you can take a conflict about nothing and create a conversation about the deeper meaning behind what your partner's concern is and amplify connection. And also just be able to move on with your night, your day, your life, and your relationship in a better way. So I want to thank all of you for participating. If you have appreciated this and learned something from this presentation, Simple Modern Therapy would love a Google review from you. So here's a QR code if you are willing to leave us a good review. This allows other couples and individuals to find support and help and connect with us. If you're also interested in watching me clown on Instagram or climb Cringe Mountain or however you want to look at it, and offers as well some relationship informed content, follow us on Instagram at Simple Modern Therapy. And if you ever need support for yourself or your relationship, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at www.simplemodern.org. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And yeah, Naya, thanks for joining us again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather, for that presentation. We will now be starting that live Q&A that I was talking about at the beginning. The Q&A function is found here at the bottom. So if you guys have any questions, you can put them in now. Our first one is, what is the difference between avoiding versus stonewalling?
Oh, that's a great question. I think in the context of this presentation, the difference that I was trying to articulate is that avoiding was talking about avoidant type behaviors. Like, I don't want to bring up the conflict. I really don't want to get into it with my partner. I just want to maybe, turn away. I think that stonewalling can come with avoidant style communicators. But usually stonewalling is an act of like, the lights are on and nobody's home. I literally don't care. I am using those listening reduced responses. So instead of attuning, leaning in, nodding my head, I may just be looking at you neutrally. So stonewalling is that behavior. Avoiding was when I was talking more about like avoidance.
Okay, awesome. Then the next one is Heather. How does prioritizing process over content help partners to listen more effectively?
Yes. So when Michael is talking about content, he's talking about what it appears that we're discussing, which, like in this example that was given, was the dishes, right? If I'm getting really mired in the dishes, why do we have to do it tonight? This isn't that big of a deal, versus the way we're interacting. Oh, my partner seems upset with me. Oh, what do I need to do right now? We can get very distracted about the thing that actually doesn't really matter in the long run. It is a hard distinction. Even in therapy, therapists can get a little bought into the content versus engaging in the process. It would be a very natural and normal thing to find yourself sucked in to the content of the conversation. But process allows us to see, these are the things that I need to do in order to make sure that we can get through this and we can be okay on the other end. And content can like help us feel really stuck. It can allow us to feel stuck.
Awesome. Then, when summarizing and clarifying, when do we focus on emotions behind what we heard?
Honestly, I feel like the more we can name the emotion, again, the more we're going to get that impact of I'm feeling understood. I'm feeling understood. So it's my personal belief that as often as we need to, or as often as feels helpful or relevant, or if we think our partner might appreciate us saying, like, in that example that I gave before, it makes sense why you're feeling frustrated. It's that ping back to our partner that, yes, they get me, they get the emotion. So I would say throughout, it's going to be helpful to point out that emotion.
Okay. And then they want to know if they can be sent the slides from this presentation and how to get the slides.
Okay, I'm not really sure how that works, but I will communicate with the maybe you, Naya, I don't know,
Yeah,
afterward,
we can. Yep.
figure things out.
Okay, awesome. We will figure that out and then let everybody know. And then the next one is, what can I do to help my partner re-engage after flooding has happened?
That's such a good question, Craig. I think it's asking permission. Really, it can be really helpful to reattune, right? We talked about those co-regulation skills, putting my hand on your hand, saying like, hey, we can get through this together. How do you feel about us trying that again? I think is a really good statement for trying to re-engage. But that permission asking, I think, can really help our partners consent to going back into the uncomfortable emotion and trying again with us.
When clients are gridlocked in conflict in session, how do you encourage and coach them through relational listening while still being a relational listener yourself?
Oh, Allison, this is so hard. First of all, I would want to know, do they need a break and what a break looks like? Is gridlock them truly just going in circles? But something that we know, if we know anything about Gottman work, that gridlock is rooted in in two needs that are in conflict. So if we can understand what's underneath the gridlock, what is keeping our clients immobile in the conflict, then we can begin to identify the areas in which they're flexible, and then they can begin to negotiate, not to solve the problem, but to process through the perpetual conflict. So it really is maybe us taking control, asking, first of all, do you need a break? Second of all, like, how can we get to the root of what the real issue is? And usually it's a value or a need or an unrecognized dream.
Hey, would you say this is helpful for perpetual conflicts?
Absolutely. I think that what is important is the mindset, right? Knowing this is a perpetual problem. This isn't a problem that we're going to resolve, but we're going to work through. So I think when we know, oh, okay, here we go again. For example, I mean, maybe this is why, oh my gosh, this is why I did this presentation today, but like a perpetual problem in my relationship is a feeling that my partner is not listening. So if I go into a conflict knowing like, oh, this is about listening, this is this fight that we have again and again, then I'm still able to use these relational listening skills, but I'm able to do it with a different framework than if I'm going for a solve.
Okay, and then what to do if your partner just sucks at listening?
Oh no, anonymous. Go to therapy. Honestly, like I think sometimes it really helps to have a neutral person guide the process and really support your partner in learning the skills to become more effective at listening. This is also a reason why I wanted to do this presentation today. I think lots of people think they're really great communicators, and actually they think they're just really good at winning arguments. And so if your partner sucks at listening, I would encourage you to go to therapy to get that support from an outside person that will help guide them, slow them down, help them emotionally regulate better, help them understand what is happening for them emotionally. And if, they're not willing to do that, maybe priming the pump a little bit by reading some books about, like the Gottmans have one called Fight Fair. And it's great. And it goes into a lot of detail about all of the intricacies of conflict. So I might recommend that as a starting point.
Awesome. And then the last one, how did you get to be so awesome? You're the best. Thanks for all your insight.
Oh, Craig, stop. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you so much, Heather. That was awesome. You have great insight. Thanks to everyone that joined us for today's webinar. We're so grateful for the questions and all the participation. Once again, if you attended this webinar for the CEU credit, make sure you stay on until the webinar ends for your survey and the certificate or email into the UMC email for your survey. Upon completion, you will get a certificate emailed back from us. Hope everybody has a great night. And just a reminder, when I end this, everybody's going to be gone. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Tunaya. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Okay.